To introduce today's speakers. Next slide, please. Our first speaker is Alif Rahman, who is the president and co-founder of Morphus. Alif was instrumental in the development of the software and the incredible success of the company. Our second speaker is Trent Pratt, who is the regional sales manager of Morphus. Trent has over 10 years of experience in the baking industry. He places high value on client relationships throughout the sales lifecycle and beyond. And our third speaker is John Willman. John is president of DNS. John has over 25 years of experience in the processing sector of the ATM industry. His initial steps began working as an ATM processing software developer in the early 90s. Willman also helped start RBSA, a processing platform in the USA for which he later became president. He then joined Columbus Data Services, now Cardtronics, in 2002 as the VP of Business Development and shareholder. Willman helped CDS grow from processing 2,000 to over 80,000 ATMs throughout the US. It is now my pleasure to hand it over to Alif.
Thank you very much, Amber. Welcome, everyone, to our Morphus Cash Recycler Managing Net Pay webinar. We're going to be discussing three main areas in our webinar today. First and foremost, we're going to be talking about what are the different cash recycler options out there as far as the hardware goes. What are the different manufacturers? And we're going to be also showing you a little bit about an example of a couple of those hardware devices. After that, we're going to be getting into what are the software solutions out there in terms of processing the transaction on the cash recycler hardware, and also what are the software solutions out there to perform cash forecasting, which is the key to manage the cash into this recycler machines. And then we'll be looking at a future view with this sort of a recycler machine in place. What does the future may look like, and what sort of efficiency that it might bring in? As we get started, I'd like to a little bit discuss about Morphus, our vision, who we are, and where we're going. At Morphus, we really want to enlighten our customers through our experiences by delivering cutting-edge software solution that is continuously evolving to meet the market demand. So our vision is to empower our customers, right? And we want to enlighten them, to help them to think about their business in new ways. We have started doing this 20 years ago when we're still in college. And we started doing this by working for the very first ATM ISO company called North American Cash System in our college apartment. We have created a very first simple but very advanced cutting-edge forecasting tool that forecasts ATM cash demand within a given period of time. We then quickly realized that forecasting alone is not going to solve the problem of the current supply chain industry. So within our software fold, we needed to include other parties involved, such as the armor carrier, the processor, the bank, the service company, and what have you. And then we start doing that by creating and delivering new software, new product, new module for different verticals. So after our very first successful implementations with our very first premier customer, Diebold, we brought in our first armored carrier within our customer base. And we helped them by managing the cash vault processing, routing, and etc. Then we start connecting them with Diebold by automating the data exchanges between them. Fast forwarding a few years, we started bringing other banks within our customer fold. Today, Federal Reserve Bank uses our system to forecast the coin terminal. Cash Connect, a division of Wispas Bank, also uses our system to manage their cash, their in-house own cash management operations. Now, we have never stopped growing. We've never stopped evolving. We are continuously evolving our system to solve the new problems and challenges as the world keeps evolving. And this brings us to our webinar that we're doing today, Recycler webinar, Managing the Net Pay. From the time of our humble beginning 20 years ago, with the very first forecasting tool or dispensing the ATMs, that has now evolved and morphed into forecasting for both dispenses and deposit for the recycler machines and managing and calculating the net pay. And that is what we're going to be discussing today in details in our webinar. So right now, we are over 88 cash centers. Our software has been used around the world, more than 88 cash centers processing different aspects. Over 250,000 cash points, ATMs, BTMs, smart safes are managed through our system. Over 10 billion currency per day is going through our system, combining with all of our customers, over 100 million transactions per year. We are over 5+ countries in the world, and with 25+ years of experiences with privacy, security, and software evolution. Now I'm going to hand it over to Trent, who is going to be discussing different hardware options in the industry. Trent.
Thank you, Alif. And like Alif said, I'm going to discuss some ATM recycler manufacturers, what the cash process is today, what it looks like in the future, and just some numbers and trends that we're seeing. If you all don't know, which I'm sure if you've joined this call, you do, but cash recyclers provide unique features enabling convenient automation of back office cash processes. It also stores cash securely while keeping an accurate account of cash on hand. And as you see on the screen, I'm going to mention some of the big players in the manufacturer industry. Chima, Hyosung, Arca, NCR, Hitachi, Fujitsu, Glory, and GRG Banking. And again, these are just a few of the big players in the industry. And on the next slide, I'm going to share with you a product demo from Hyosung. Next slide, please. Now, this is the MS500 teller cash recycler. Has continuous speed, allows for large uninterrupted deposit transactions. As you can see here, there's a 12,000 note capacity, deposit or withdraw any denomination. No need to stop to correct any unfit notes. And it's very intuitive, easy to navigate, Windows 10 based platform. And this guy is showing a secure locking transit cassette, adding cash. It's 3,000 note secure transit cassette. And again, with this Hyosung MS500, this is just one that I chose that stood out to me. Zero exposure. Cash is secured in the transit cassette for deposit into the TCR. Cash is transferred to or from the transit cassette at 12 notes per second. Accurate, suspect counterfeit notes are rejected for inspection. And again, simple operation, integrated display provides transaction information. Easy to use. And again, that's the Hyosung MS500. I'm also going to share one from Arca. And this is the Vero Edge. Ultimate capacity, speed, and security. A continuous speed input. Deposits 12 notes per second. I think it's $300,000 in total capacity. It's the fastest, highest capacity recycler with continuous feed. Multiple cassettes, and it's self-auditing. So that was the ARCA Vero Edge. Again, these are just a few examples of the many options that you have in the industry. If you're looking to add one of these to your retail space or banking center, do the research, find out which one works best for you. Now, the cash management process today, we're all accustomed to it, requires multiple steps and resources, resulting in many inefficiencies. So I'm going to take you through a typical week, either in a retail space or a banking center. So the beginning of the week, you get your cash drawer and make sure you have enough money. And every day and constantly throughout the day, you spend a lot of time as a cashier on low value tasks, maintaining your drawer. Whether you've taken in a lot of cash and have set security limits, resulting in selling down your drawer to the vault, or you withdrawn or provided change to customers, draining the drawer, resulting in buying from the vault, and so on, which takes us to the next step. The vault deposit, dual control, and manual count. So no matter how well you prepare and try to be proactive in maintaining the cash flow within your branch or retail space, it never fails. Multiple times throughout a typical day, you have to be reactive, go grab another employee. Most of the time it's a manager to open the vault, verify the cash, and perform a buy or sell. Now you can see with just these first two steps that I've already taken you through, you've taken a lot of valuable customer-facing resources away, and you're really affecting that customer experience. So take you through the next three steps in the cash cycle process, which is your armored pickup, your bank trip, your verification at your regional vault, and your bank deposit, which I know we're all familiar with, taking 3 to 5 days. So depending on the volume of your branch, the armored carrier will typically pick up or drop off a shipment 1 to 2 times a week. It could be more, again, depending on your volume. Once picked up, the shipments are taken to the regional vault for verification. And as you can see on the diagram here, the vault is also managing the retail ATMs as a separate cash service. Then it all comes together after multiple days and settles back to your bank account. Again, that's currently 3 to 5 business days. And as you can see, this process, again, includes a lot of low value tasks, manual cash counting, dual resources, multiple service and hardware providers, and a considerable delay in receiving your funds. Now I want to take you what that would look like in the future. So the cash management process of the future, it will allow you to lower your cost by leveraging solutions to better manage and automate your cash. Again, simply by adding recyclers to your ATM network, you have your cash drawer, a deposit is required. So in this first step, we all know it could possibly even go away in some instances. A personal example would be when I was working in a retail bank branch. Once we added a recycler to the branch, it completely did away with tellers having cash drawers. Again, this is just one example, but overall, the time spent maintaining a cash drawer is greatly reduced. Then in the next step, we have your ATM recycler. So by adding an ATM recycler to your branch or retail space, you remove the need to buy and sell to the vault multiple times throughout the day, because it acts simply as a single custody vault using recycled cash from your withdrawals or for store use as vault, which in turn reduces your risk and allows the staff to focus on those customers. So the next 3 steps are really, you're taking you through these steps of the process of the future, which are the bank, CIT, and regional vault. With the bank, with this new and improved technology, retail deposits can now be credited the same day instead of having to wait 3 to 5 days. Being that the ATM recycler has greatly improved your cash management, the overall process will greatly reduce cash servicing trips or bank runs. So these next 3 steps are streamlined, this whole process. And on the next slide, I'm going to recap the benefits of having a cash recycler. Next slide, please. There we go. So cash visibility. You have improved cash flow and cash process efficiency, as well as full transparency of your cash cycle. Increased operational efficiencies. You have up to 80% less time spent on cash handling, so staff can focus on your customers. You optimize your cash flow, reduce cash handling costs, like I mentioned, including CIT and banking fees. And since cash is handled a lot less, you enhance your security and less cash exposure. Now, as I was doing research, I want to share with you some of the trends that stood out to me in this industry. Next slide, please. Now, the number of cash handling or cash recycling ATMs is expected to exceed 1.2 million by 2026. And this is all while non-recycling ATMs are projected to continue to decline. Cash recycling ATMs are the fastest growing segment in the of ATMs globally. That was very interesting. 41% of our customers said that they use ATMs for some portion of their banking engagement. And I know I felt it, and I'm sure many of you have. The pandemic accelerated digital commerce by 3 years. The projected average operational cost savings of cash recycling ATMs combined with cash management software is 20%. So again, these are just a few trends. I shared with you some big players in the manufacturer industry, what the traditional cash process looks like today, what we're all accustomed to, what it will look like in the future if we were to add one of these to our space, and just a few trends that we're seeing. I'm going to pass it back to Alif to talk about software.
Thank you, Trent. So when it comes to software, there is also multiple options and players out there, including Morphus, Namsys, ATM Smart, ATM Boss, Cash Force, what have you. For the remainder of this webinar, we're going to be discussing in particular two areas of a software solution, which is going to be critical to manage the recycler device. The hardware alone is not going to be able to give you an overall efficiency unless it comes with the software solutions. So connecting, integrating with the devices through secure connections such as API, endpoints, and what have you, getting the data in real time and forecasting the cache need and manage the cache is going to be critical. And we'll be discussing that, and we're going to be also presenting a forecasting solution that we offer today that you can leverage off. At the same time, John, I'm going to hand it over to John in a minute. He's going to be talking about the processing aspect of the recycler machine, how that's going to handle in the back end, and the network settlement and what have you. So, John?
Thank you, Alif. So Alif asked me to join this morning and really talk about the processing aspect. Second is using a shared deposit network. So you'll want to check with your sponsor bank and ensure that they're willing to sponsor you into the shared deposit networks and allow you to do that. But there are a number of them out there: CU Alliance, MoneyPass, Co-op, NICE. Really all of your major networks in the US have them. But those in particular offer different options where you can actually locate the ATMs, that kind of stuff. And so those are great options for you to be able to take deposits from multiple institutions at one time, get your ATMs on a locator where people could find your machines and be able to actually look up where to do a deposit. The deposit taking is a very profitable portion, as deposits do pay a much higher interchange. They pay anywhere from $2 to $2.50 for those deposits. So it's certainly a great option for you, and something you would want to consider if you are going to consider taking on some of the recycling ATMs. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Leif and let him continue on. Thanks, Leif.
Thank you, John. Okay, so right now I'm going to be talking about what an effective recycler cash management solution should have as a part of its feature set. First and foremost, on the forecasting area, denomination setup. As we all know, a recycler machine can come up with multiple cassettes, like 4, 6, 8, what have you. How do you really know which denomination to set into each cassette? So the software tool should be able to analyze the location-specific transactions behavior and to help the store owner to perform the initial configuration of the cassettes. And it can employ, AI and machine learning and continuously check the configuration and then suggest the different denomination setup. So an example, you might want to get started with 1, 5, 10s, 20s as an example. Then as you're analyzing the transactions, both withdrawals and deposit, that configuration might change. So the tool must be able to accommodate both an initial setup and ongoing suggestions of the configuration change as the circumstances, the real world, the environment changes as well. It must be able to also forecast withdrawal and deposit and manage the net pay. So there should be two different tracks. There should be two different kinds of transactions behavior coming in through the API through the system for us to manage that. Then there is something else also that comes as a part of the recycler machine, which we call an overflow bin. The overflow bin is the area where unfit notes or the notes that are not configured to go into a cassette will end up in. It's actually managing this overflow bin, tracking the movement of the cash into overflow bin, and creating an armored visit to pick up the money or pull the money out of the overflow bin. It lies the success of managing the cash in the recycling machines. Because when this overflow bin gets full to a certain level, the machine stops working. So we need to be able to keep track of the balances, check the transaction, check the movement, and make sure that it is being emptied out. And then communication. This is a key piece. The hardware manufacturer must have ways to provide secure communication through API endpoints with the software tool. And it must be in near real time. And there are a couple of reasons for that. Is the software tool must be able to check whether the machine is up or it is down. If it is down, generate an automated status request to the service provider and be able to send them a technician instantly to service the machine. At the same time, the near real-time feed allows the tool to measure the time of the day where it is the transaction is going up or down. So kind of gauge that and kind of time the armored visit with the specific time of the day where that needs to be serviced, right? So that is also an important part of that. Centralized control is a key effect. So the tool, again, must be able to manage the configuration of setup of each of the cassettes and be able to constantly suggest to the store owner or the HMIs or the owner of the location to be able to configure and change the setup of the cassettes as time goes on. data transparency, separate dashboard for merchant, ATM owner, bank will show different view and transaction, balance and reconciliation data. And then the tool must communicate the forecasted data to other vendors, such as through electronic instructions to the carrier, cash transfer requests to the bank, and etc., to effectively manage and facilitate the communication with all parties. Now, I want to show you a set of two screens of what a forecast screen may look like in our system. So in Morphis, we are able to forecast both runoff, runout, and the excess pickup on the overflow bin. So forecast both withdrawal and deposit separately. We must be able to do that to determine what we call a net pay. So this will help to determine and track the notes going into this overflow bin. It's actually, again, as I mentioned before, to manage this carrier visit to empty out this overflow bin lies the success of the recycler cash forecasting management. Now, in an ideal world, you would think that both deposit and withdrawal balance each other out, right? But in reality, a lot of unfortunate things can happen. Unfit cash, unconfigured cassette denom will end up into this overflow bin. So the tool should be able to forecast when a runoff happening and when a runout is happening, and when to empty out this excess, the overflow bin, if you will. Secondly, and here's where I'm going to try to use my pointer. There's two parts of this screen. On the top part, you can see this pink graph shows the withdrawal behavior. And the bottom part is the deposit behavior. So you can kind of see in this part of time, there is a huge delta between withdrawal and deposit, right? But as time goes on, they kind of balance each other out. So the tool must be able to forecast, again, both of these things separately and create this sort of a trend line, trend behavior to manage the net pay right in the middle. So in this part of the time where you will see the withdrawal is higher than the deposit, so your recycler cassette will most likely will empty out. So there must be a armored request sent to load the cassettes as they balance each other out toward the end. The bottom graph is showing you in red in deposit and in green, in the red withdrawal and green deposit. This is your monthly indexes or seasonalities by month. So here in January, February, and so on and so forth. In January, they're kind of balancing each other out. In February, there's more withdrawal than deposit, as the graph is showing on the top. So, and then sort of a balance each other out. And it actually, coming October, November, there more deposit happens. Now, this is a specific behavior for this location only. Different location has different behavior. So the forecasting tool, our forecasting tool, analyzes each location behavior separately and performs suggestion. So this sort of a year-long monthly indexes and seasonalities will allow you to gauge when you might need the armored visit and how you might need them, whether to load the cassettes or remove the money from the cassette and or to service the overflow bin. All right. So what's right now I'm going to talk about the future. The ideal world with a recycler. So what will an ideal world with a recycler in it might look like, and how it might change things and bring efficiency in our lives? Now, this seems like a very busy slide, but I'm going to focus on a couple of things. First of all, the key highlights, right? It seems that today we are hamstringed and restricted by the armored route scheduling, and everything seems to be revolving around that to fit that armored schedule. But that's not the way it should be, because this results into a huge inefficiency and waste of money and everything else. And carriers should be using an effective route management system to visit a location when it's needed and just in time. And implementing a recycler with an effective forecasting tool will accomplish just that. So some of the key highlights of this is we must be able to, the tool must be able to forecast run out and run off. There should be just-in-time visit when it's needed, and carrier must be using an optimized routing. So number one, the tool must be able to communicate through an API or other secure method the transactions from cash recyclers, from the ATM, so Bitcoin machines, because a particular store might have all kinds of devices in it. So the tool must be able to communicate and get the transaction data in real time. That's number one. And then the tool must be able to manage the merchant credit instantly and manage the FinCEN reporting, if any. The tool must be able to forecast for both pickup and deliveries, withdrawal and deposit at the same time. Now, why this is important? So when you're forecasting for a pickup from a cash recycler or a smart safe, what have you, then if that store also has other devices, then why not service them at the same time? And the tool must be able to analyze the behaviors and also incorporate those instructions to reduce the armored visit, right? And then obviously, this pickup information that from the armored carrier must be transmitted to the tool for balancing and reconciliation purposes as well. Cash that is delivered and picked up by the armored carrier is checked into their vault, processed, and automatically that information is sent via a secure dashboard where the customer can see the deposit, withdrawal, pickups, and all kinds of balancing and reconciliation information. Finally, the effective route management system will analyze the workload for each driver or technician. And if they're ahead, then it can suggest additional work, such as scheduled maintenance. So if there is another location nearby that needs some sort of maintenance task tomorrow or within a certain period of time, then tool must be able to suggest them to go and perform that instead of going back there again the next day. This creates efficiencies in overall business process. Now, this takes us into our last slide, where what we call amorphous ecosystem of currency supply chain, that we also dub as amorphous community, where instructions and data is communicated among all parties seamlessly. And this is where we have started this webinar in the beginning, where I took you through a journey where we started and how we started to realize that we have to bring all the other vendors in and create an efficient communication among each other to really solve this problem. This is where we're going to end up with this webinar as well, to focus and emphasize on that point. Now, within this amorphous community concept, an ATM ISO with a retailer or a Bitcoin operator owner, what have you, can forecast and send the instruction automatically to the bank and the carrier. And this also includes the recycler machines, by the way. Once the serviced, different devices are serviced, picked up or deposited, the residual information and the pickup information processed by the carrier automatically will be sent to all the stakeholders, such as the ATM ISOs, the banks, and etc. And this eliminates unnecessary paperwork and file exchanges. And this saves time and automate the entire process for everybody's benefit. And this is what an evolution into harmonious and effective world may look like. With that, I will turn it back to our moderator for Q&As and next steps.
Thank you very much, Leif, and thank you to Trent and John for a very comprehensive overview of the system. As Leif had mentioned, we will now open it up to questions. As a reminder, you can type your questions in the questions area on your dashboard. I also wanted to call out the flyer from Morphus on your dashboard on cash recycling. You can download that for further information about what was discussed today. I'll start off our questions session with the first question. Does the employee walk the cash from the drawer to the ATM for deposit? Assuming yes, risk of the process. Could I have one of you guys answer that, please?
Just to repeat the questions. So the question is are the employees that are walking or taking the cash to the recycler devices?
Yes, yep. Walking the cash from the drawer to it must be the ATM recycler for deposit. And assuming yes, what is the risk of the process?
That is a very good and that's a very valid question. And that also depends on, and we have toyed with this idea a lot, where is that ATM recycler machine is installed or located. So we want to put it as close to the employers as possible to minimize that walk. So you want to do it, in a shift, probably toward the end of the day or whenever, when there is less risk involved. Now, yes, there is a little bit of walk involved, and I think that the different manufacturers, the way they are solving these issues are to fast deposit the money into the recycler machine. So the employer's exposure standing in front of the machine minimizes. Anybody else want to take that, John or Trent?
I can answer from personal experience. So when I worked in the teller as a branch manager on the teller line, the cash recycler was located. We had one in front, and then later we got one in the back as well. But before the branch opened, you would make sure that the recycler was good to go. Either they had enough money and we didn't ship out the day before, whatever it was, you'd make sure that all the denoms had the appropriate cash levels. But as a teller, when we were taking in, those deposits would go directly into the recycler. So unless a customer brings in, a couple of $1,000s in 20s or whatever, and you have to take it back, that same process would take place. You could either deposit it into the machine or you could sell directly to the vault. But what we're trying to do here is minimize the amount of time that we're taking either a branch manager or another employee away from the customer. So, but while doing so, being as safe as possible. Also, when you're putting those in there, bringing up risk, if something unfortunately were to happen, there are limits of, let's say someone came into your branch and wanted to hold you up. There are limits of what that cash recycler can spit out at one time if you are in that mode, if that makes sense. I don't know if I answered it, but I tried.
Yeah, I think that's a great overview, and actually kind of leads into our next question that came in. Have the ATM recyclers suffered cyber or physical attacks, and if so, ways to mitigate that to lessen the exposure?
I am personally not aware of that yet. This might be a question more specific toward one of the manufacturers to see what they have experienced. I'm not aware of any of such situation, John or Trent, if you guys are aware or have heard anything.
I am not.
Yeah, so this might be a specific question toward one of the manufacturers. We can find out and get back to the audience and see if we can publish something on that.
Okay, sounds great. Next question that came in, is there any data on the volume of unfit notes being rejected by recyclers in low-income societies where the quality of notes can be poor?
That's a really great questions. I do not have any such data yet, but again, there are a lot of studies and pilot cases going on those specific areas of industry, and then we can gather those as the time goes on and start to publish those as well. But It's a great question, and it can really vary from places to place, where those unfit notes are ending up in the overflow bin.
All right, thank you. Yeah, it sounds like this will be a continuing subject matter that we can expect continuing data on, which is exciting. Now, kind of going back to looking into the cash recycler, if someone's looking at investing in this and they ask the question, is the recycler device too expensive for me? How would you address that question?
Trent or John, you guys want to take that?
I'll take a stab at it. So when you say too expensive, think about how much it would cost, and it's costing you with not having the right employees in front of your customers. Think about how much it would cost with the security risk that you're taking by having cash not secured. So it's all, what is your return on your investment? That all depends on your current setup, and you'd have to look at the pros and cons of each particular situation.
Yep. And also, just want to point out, there's actually a couple of studies was done on it. And if anybody's interested specifically, get with us, and we can share some specific information on it, where there's some ROI was done, and a couple of things was incorporated. One of them was the armored visit, minimize the armored visit. So, which is one of the largest cost on in your balance sheet or line item. So one of the benefit and goal of the recycler is to minimize that visit, and how much that's going to save you. Also, instant merchant credit and what have you. So yeah, get with us specifically. So we can. This really depends on what the different line items or what you have going on at your specific locations, and we can input some of those income and expense line items and kind of show you an ROI. But most of the time, what I've seen is it results into huge savings.
Excellent. Great overview. The next question is, what are the steps I should do to pick the right software for my cash recycling needs?
Well, you want to make sure, as we're presenting it earlier, you want to make sure the software is capable of connecting with the device through APIs or any other secure means to get the transaction data in real time. Number one. Number two, you want to make sure that the software is capable of forecasting for both withdrawal and deposits, so it can effectively manage the net pay in between. And preferably, the software is also able to communicate and connect with other vendors, such as Armored, specifically, so that the pickup and delivery data are exchanged seamlessly. So you want to make sure the automation is in place, and so that it reduces or removes any of the manual task of data exchanges that you have to do. So those are three key points that has to happen. Now, if any one of those are not there, right, that will reduce efficiency. So just keep that in mind, and make sure that those software tools checks off those three checklists.
All right. And let's see, we have another question that came in here. With reference to the earlier question on protection against cyber attack, the cash recycler is treated like any other ATM in the bank's estate, and the same preventative measures against cyber attacks would be deployed, such as using anti-malware software, hardening the disk, etc. Okay. Sounds like someone's just confirming that, which is good. Going on to the next question, and I think you guys have touched on this with some of your previous questions, but maybe just a recap. How does a company know if it's the right time to invest in a cash recycler?
John and Trent, you guys want to take a stab at that? It's a great question.
Again, personally, I believe that those are questions that they have to look at their current situation, because every situation would be different. How many times do you see yourself handling the cash? How many times, I mean, you want to reduce all of those areas that I discussed, and you want to increase your cash visibility and your operational efficiencies while reducing your risk and reducing customer impact. So put all of those things on paper, and I mean, I think it's going to wind up paying for itself in the long run, but you have to look at your current situation and see what would work best for your setup.
Yeah, that's a great point. I want to mention one thing there also, if you don't mind, is I think that time to invest into that is now, because you want to stay ahead of the curve, right? You want to prepare for the future, and we believe that this is the way to the future, where you want to make the retail locations or branch self-sufficient, as much self-sufficient as possible. We're moving toward I wouldn't say robots are taking over the world, but we're moving toward a lot of automations. And whenever there's a repetitive task where human element could be the move for efficiency, then that's what's happening. So the more we want to make this location self-sufficient, the better it is, and that's where we're heading to. And you want to stay ahead of that. And so the time is probably, as I said, it's now.
Excellent. Great advice. With that, probably the next question would be, all right, what's the next step that if someone is wanting to start looking into this and maybe start exploring this option for their company, what's the first step they should take?
You should first give us a call right there in your, on the screen, because we would be your one-stop shop. Give us a call. There's right there the phone number. Book a demo with us, or go to our website. We can help you with many things. We can help you with, okay, what is going to be the right hardware manufacturer fit for you? What's your specific need, and help you with the ROI model, right? Our software is also used across independent armored industry. Which armored you want to pick, and obviously what our forecasting solution that we offer, and see if that is a right fit or not. So we like to, I wouldn't say call ourselves the expert, but we can help you to lead the way to what would be the next step.
Excellent. Yes, and exactly the answer I was hoping you'd say. So yes, the first step to start exploring this is to make the call and start doing the research. With that, it looks like we have not received any other questions, as you guys have covered this very well, expertly. We will include emails to our presenters in the thank you email that goes out. So if you do have any follow-up questions after that, you'll have their contact information to follow up with them directly. So again, a huge thank you to Alif, Trent, John, and to Morphus for sponsoring the webinars, and thank you for everyone who's attended today. As a reminder, ATMIA does host a variety of educational webinars for the ATM industry. If you have a topic that would make a good subject for a webinar such as this, please reach out to me at amber@atmia.com for details on sponsoring one. We'll also include that in our thank you email. But that does conclude our webinar, and we do look forward to seeing you on future ones. Goodbye.